thing about the online channel is that it can be measured a million different ways. So the positive is a negative. We asked Eric to help the challengers in this audience come up with strategies to better compete against dominant incumbent players. If you're small, if you're starting, if you're a challenger of big companies, you need to be very effective because you got less budget, less time, or you're going to be killed. His whole thing, Eric's whole thing, is about measuring your activities, using the feedback loop to get better, and kill the competition. Eric Peterson.
Thanks very much. Hello. It's very nice to be here today. I'm on a bit of a world tour. I started on Monday in Helsinki, Finland, spent Tuesday in Stockholm, Sweden. Now I'm here in Rotterdam, back in Rotterdam with you folks on my way to Brussels, Belgium. I'm here from Web Analytics Demystified to talk about all that can be measured and all that can be known. All of you have some investment in the internet. You have a website, maybe you have a mobile platform. You have something where you're trying to compete. You're trying to grow your business online. And there is a tremendous amount of data available to all of you. There's clickstream data, there's qualitative data, there is data everywhere. But you have to know how to harness that data. You cannot have a non-specific strategy to take advantage of the internet. You can't just guess on the internet anymore. With the oncome of Web 2.0 and the emergence of Web 3.0, eventually it will only become more critical that you identify a good strategy for doing web analytics and for optimizing your business culture. So briefly, for the few of you who have not bought my books, I am the CEO of Web Analytics Demystified, Incorporated, a strategic consulting group based in the US, in Oregon, but I have business partners from OX2 in Brussels, Belgium, and also recently announced Satama in Stockholm, or in Helsinki, Finland. I'm the author of 3 books, formerly industry technology analyst. So for 2 years of my life, I looked in great detail at how companies just like yours take advantage of the internet and how you're building an online marketing strategy. I'm a writer and researcher at webanalyticsdemystified.com, and it gives me great pleasure with my new company to be able to produce research that is freely available to the world. I don't have to sell it anymore. I don't have to monetize that. So the last time I was in Holland for a conference, I presented data on how web analytics happens in Europe compared to how it happens in the US. Very interesting data, and you can access that at my website. So I want to talk about web analytics is easy, right? Web analytics is easy. Anybody can do web analytics. It's freely available now. The authors, bloggers, and pundits all say that web analytics is easy. Easy to use web analytics to benchmark your success, a hit links review. Rafe Needleman says Visistat makes web analytics easy. It's right there in print. Occam's razor, the great Avinash Kaushik, says that segmentation is a key tactic that makes it easy to understand might be causing a bad performance or a good one. I have even said at my own blog at Web Analytics Demystified that I have an easy-to-use yet powerful web analytics application, and the only industry body that we have in web analytics, the Web Analytics Association, has said that by taking web analytics reports, analyzing the data, and applying conclusions on a consistent basis, it is easy to pinpoint problem areas, reveal oversights and errors, and correct them quickly. It's easy to do web analytics. But don't believe the authors and bloggers. The vendors say it is as well. WebStat makes web analytics easy and cost-effective. HBX is more than just an easy-to-use web analytics solution. ClickTracks makes it easy for marketers to perform desktop data mining activities. I looked at that and I said, what in God's good name is a desktop data mining activity? I couldn't figure it out, but at least I know it's easy. The good people at WebTrends Small Business makes web analytics easy with new visualization capabilities, and small businesses finally have the power to easily discern answers. Web analytics is easy, everyone, right? FireClick takes it a step further, and they put the words Web Analytics Made Easy in the banner on every page of their website, saying that FireClick makes web analytics easy. And finally, the fine folks at Unica in Boston, Massachusetts. It's easy to use, easy to implement, easy to adapt. All analytics solutions claim to be easy. In contrast, Unica's solutions are easy to implement, easy to use, easy to adapt, and they even put an easy button right on their website. If web analytics is easy, Unica must make it exceptionally simple. Even the great Google, all bow to Google, says that web analytics is easy. And they take it to the extreme. Getting started with Google Analytics is easy and free. It's easy to use for novice marketers. The new Google Analytics makes it easy to improve your results online. The new version is easy enough for a layperson to understand. And Brett Crosby, one of the original founders of Urchin, and a very, very nice guy, I should add, said that they focused their efforts on making their products extremely easy to use and easy to set up, eliminating hassles wherever they can. The evidence is overwhelming. Web analytics is easy. All of these people would not have said so. All of these great companies would not have lied to you. They would not have lied to us or intended to confuse the truth about doing web analytics, would they? They wouldn't do that. Or would they? The problem is that in 10 years in this industry, I have done web analytics, I have worked with companies, large and small, all around the world, and I still run into people like you every day who struggle to identify the data that they need, who struggle to hire resources, who struggle to produce analysis that can be meaningfully used to improve online marketing, online advertising, the site, experience, retention. Companies all over the world still struggle to do web analytics. So I think about that. I think, wait, people really struggle with this, but web analytics is easy. And that's difficult to reconcile. I recently conducted a study of 856 practitioners around the world, people in Europe, Southeast Asia, throughout America, and I asked them a handful of questions. I found some very interesting data. The good news is that 68% of organizations are having employees, right? They've dedicated resources to do web analytics. And 47% of practitioners are actually making recommendations now. They're not just producing reports and giving them back. They're saying, here's what we should do. This is what this means. The bad news is that 1 in 5 organizations still only do web analytics on an ad hoc basis. It's firefighting. There's a problem with the website. Let's figure out why. But it's not a structured approach. And nearly 60% of practitioners actually said that web analytics was difficult. Apparently, they hadn't been to all those websites that said web analytics was easy. The ugly news is that 1 in 3 practitioners say that web analytics is currently answering less than half of their business questions. Where is my online marketing effective? Who are my most valuable visitors? What are my most popular products? By which refers? Less than half, 1 in 3 people are not getting even half their questions answered. Half of the practitioners in the world have recently considered switching jobs, which is good news for them because it's a great market, it's a great time to do web analytics, to have experience, but it's really bad news for the 68% of organizations that depend on those people to do web analytics. If all of your dependence is on a person and that person leaves, you're in trouble. Even uglier, 54%, over half of organizations aren't even trying to figure out what they get back from their investment in web analytics. So maybe you spend money with Nedstat here in the Netherlands. Maybe you're using Google Analytics and you have people dedicated to it. Maybe you're using WebTrends or HBX. 54% of you are not even bothering to try to figure out what value that provides to your organization. I want to focus on one number here. This 1 in 3 of the practitioners who say that web analytics is not answering at least 50% of their questions. I don't know how curves are given and how grades are assigned here in Europe, but I do know one thing, that in America, if I would have answered less than half of the questions on a test, I would have received an F. So web analytics is easy, but for 1/3 of you, it is getting a failing grade. Well, I thought about this for a long time. I sat down and I asked my peers, my trusted advisors, my friends like Arlie Pauls from OX2 in Belgium. I said, why is this? And eventually I came to a very simple conclusion, that web analytics is not easy. Web analytics is hard. Web analytics is hard to do. You should not have an expectation that you can simply throw Google Analytics code on your page and immediately start getting questions, answers, and insights out of that. You should not expect that you can provide little effort and little resource and still get great information out of this, because web analytics is hard. It is hard to do. And you need to have a structured approach to do web analytics. It's okay to admit that you struggle with web analytics. We work in a culture, especially around the e-metrics conference, which has happened for many years in the States and is now here in Dusseldorf, I believe, and also in Stockholm. We work in a culture where people don't want to admit they don't understand. Nobody wants to have a conversation with somebody like me and say, you know what, I struggle with this, I don't understand this, but it's okay to admit that this stuff is hard. It's okay to admit that you don't have all the answers. But it is not okay to give up. Because all of you, regardless of what your business does, have an obligation to measure and understand. You need to understand your marketing initiatives. You need to understand brand awareness and loyalty. If you're using Ajax and social networks and mobile and RIAs and Web 2.0 technologies, you have to understand what value that brings back to you and your shareholders and your customers. You shouldn't feel bad if you don't understand. You shouldn't feel bad if you struggle to do web analytics and website measurement because it's hard. So I wanted to share with you some examples of real people just like you who I interviewed. This is Connie Fadigan. Connie's been doing web analytics for 2 years using Web Trends and Google Analytics. And web analytics is hard for Connie because there are great inconsistencies in the literature. Up until 3 weeks ago, we didn't even have a set of standard definitions. Page views would mean one thing to one vendor, a different thing to another vendor, and something else completely to an end user. There were no standards. Web analytics was also hard for Connie because people delete their cookies. People erase their browser histories, and when you're in a B2B environment and you're trying to connect not with the teeming masses, but with you and you and you, I want to know your histories. I want to see you come back to my website, but you delete your cookies. I know you do, don't you? It's okay to admit it. So for Connie, web analytics is hard because there's just too much data and it's not well tied together. This is Paul Smith. Paul Smith has the hardest job in America right now because he does web analytics for the US Army recruiting website. Talk about a thankless job. Come to our website, sign up, go to Iraq, and be killed. Web analytics is hard for Paul because he's not going to sign anybody up on his website. He needs to measure engagement. He needs people to go to the Army website and go back and back and back and think about how they can proudly serve their country and how they can make a difference in this world. And obviously, you can detect my personal political opinion here. Web analytics is hard for Paul because our United States government doesn't allow the use of cookies on US government websites. Web analytics is very, very highly tied to the use of cookies to identify these three gentlemen coming back to my website time and time again. He said, we can use cookie with high-level approval. And I said, well, what does that mean? What is high-level approval? You have to ask your boss? And he said, no. Do you know who Condoleezza Rice is? And I said, Condoleezza Rice, the US Secretary of State, the presidential appointed Secretary of State? And he goes, uh-huh. I go, yeah? He says, that's high-level approval. We have to ask Condoleezza Rice, who's busy with other things than cookies, I'm quite sure. So for Paul, web analytics is hard because conversions happen offline and there are huge gaps in the data that he has. He cannot track someone who's willing to lay down their life for our government or for any government because he cannot use cookies. It's very beautiful. This is Terry Chadwick. Terry's worked in web analytics for 5 years. She's using core metrics at a very large US bank. She works in a huge enterprise, similar to Holland's Postbank, right? It would be the same size organization. And web analytics is hard for Terry because implementation issues. One group implements one way, one group implements another way, one group implements yet another way, and then they outsource some of this. Every implementation is different for Terry. Staff turnover. She gets people trained on how to use the information. They quit their jobs because every other person is thinking about taking a new job and leaves, so all of that information is lost. She does the training and loses the people. It's hard for Terry because different systems give different answers. Core Metrics says you had this many page views, but Atlas says we sent you this many people. It should be this many page views. The email system gives a different number. The RSS system gives a different number. The mobile system gives a different number. All of the systems, in a lack of standards, give completely different numbers. And Terry's supposed to reconcile all that. Finally, Web Analytics is hard for Terry because the person in the bank who signed $1 million check to pay for core metrics has no idea what she should get out of that investment. $1 million without regard or expectation. $1 million without thought for return on investment. And that makes it really hard for Terry to go back and ask for more money because people just say, I gave you $1 million. Why do you need more? They don't even understand. So for Terry, Web Analytics is hard because of politics and ever-changing resources. She just can't get her finger on the dial for long enough to make real decisions. I'm not supposed to notice you, I know, but I see you right there. Web Analytics is hard, but it's not impossible. You cannot give up, even if it's hard. You cannot throw in the towel and not measure and not optimize and not improve. It is not an option. Because if you do, your competitors will figure it out, and they will crush you in the marketplace. They will come in, and they will out-advertise you. They will out-market you. They will out-everything you, because they'll get smart and use the data. So you have to do this. Print advertising dollars are quickly shifting on the internet. Business 2.0 called it quits the other day. Readers and viewers are moving on to the internet. The Web 2.0 accelerates the need. Measurement can prove all of this, but you have to be committed to it. You have to have a strategy. Now, when Emers asked me to come here, they said, we'd like you to come to Holland, and we'd like you to share a strategy. We'd like you to give our audience specific advice on what they can do to improve their websites, to improve their advertising and marketing initiatives. Well, it was such a nice invitation to bring me here in Holland, to let me travel all over Europe and hang around with my friends. I thought, I'll do exactly that. So I want to talk about what all of you should be thinking about in 2007 and 2008, and where the technology is going and where the opportunity is going. It's going there quickly in the US. It's got to go there around the world. I want you to ramp up your web analytics strategy. Ramp. If you remember nothing else about this speech, don't remember me making fun of the photographer or picking on these three guys. Remember ramp. Resources, analysis, multivariate testing, and process. It is not just about technology. It is about resources, analysis, multivariate testing, and process. So let's talk about each of those. Resources are not just technology. It's not just software. It's not just Google Analytics or NetStats or Web Trends or Hitbox or Visual Sciences or Core Metrics. Resources are technology and people. You must have people looking at your web analytics technology. If you only have 0.5 of an IT resource or 0.25 of a marketing resource, you will never be as successful as you should be, as you want to be. You have to dedicate resources. Technology is a means to an end. And there's a whole optimization ecosystem you have to consider. It's not just clickstream data, but it's just a means to an end. It is about people, because people manage technology. People manage expectations. They provide analysis, and people make recommendations. I have seen every web analytics platform on the planet, and none of them make recommendations. They provide pretty reports. They provide nice-looking graphs. They provide three-dimensional visualizations, but none tell you where to spend your money, where to stop spending your money. It is your people, your smart people or smart consultants that will tell you that. It's about resources, which are people and technology. The ecosystem, this is very new research. Web analytics, there are measures and actions, quantitative and qualitative data. For the longest time, everybody said, and I might even be guilty of this in one of my books, everybody said that web analytics will save you. Web analytics, clickstream data has everything you need to know. It'll show you where the problems are. The problem is, it doesn't matter where the problems are if you don't know why those problems are problems and if you don't know how to fix them. So you need to add in qualitative sources of data. Voice of customer, VOC, and customer experience management, CEM. You need to be able to ask people, why did you bail out? Why did you leave our website? Why don't you come back? What do you like about us? What do you not like about us? You need to be able to ask them and integrate that data with your clickstream data. So then you can take a segment of dissatisfied customers. Show me my dissatisfied customers. Where did they go on your website? Where did they come from? What did they look at? Why are they dissatisfied? and then work to solve that problem. So that's where you take actions. The actions are behavioral targeting technologies. They're multivariate testing technologies like Memetrics, like Offermatica, like Opmodesa, and Optimost. They're technologies that let you try different things. So as people say, I don't like you because your website is the wrong color, you can try different colors. It's a ridiculous case, of course, but you can try different things. And eventually you get to the point where you can do personalization. You can use technologies like Omniture's Touch Clarity or Kefta or other technologies to start to have more of a one-to-one or a small group to small group relationship with your visitors and use this data and information effectively. The key message here is that if you're only focusing on web analytics, if you're only focusing at that lower quadrant, you're not going to know why and you're not going to know how the problems people have affect the long-term relationship. So you have to think bigger picture with technology and resources. Analysis, right? Resources is the R, analysis is the A, and analysis is the desired output. Way too much emphasis has been put in the past on generating reports. Reports are a necessary evil, but they are still evil. They can easily distract you from high-value activities like doing analysis, making recommendations, working to understand how to improve your marketing efforts in your site. If you only focus on reports, you'll miss the bigger picture. But the vendors who are my friends, although less every day when I give this presentation, the vendors want to focus on the reports. We have 400 reports. We have 4,000 reports. We have 400,000 reports. It's like, I don't need 400,000 reports. I need 4 reports that tell me something. But that's not what they're pushing. They're pushing reports, and reports will not help you. It is analysis. It's recommendations, not data, and it's insights, not metrics. So the example I show you here, the graphics above, that's reports, that's data. But the text boxes below is the analysis. It's where a person, a resource has said, these numbers are moving in this direction, and here's why. These numbers are moving in this direction, and here's what we should do about it. It is analysis and recommendations that will make you successful with web analytics. You need a strategy to produce this analysis. It doesn't just happen. It doesn't come out of a box. This is a model for how companies can produce analysis. But this is a particularly good model because it turns out that your ING Postbank here in Holland uses this model. They have a hub. They have an analytics hub of specialists who are very strong in their use of quantitative and qualitative data and who have a strong and deep understanding of analytics and how to produce analysis. But they support the larger organization that is generating their own reports. They support the spokes so people become sophisticated enough to look at their own data, to think about their own business, and when they need analysis, they have a hub. They have a central hub that they can ask for help. And this is a very efficient model. Now, you may not be able to hire some hub. You may not be able to hire those people into your own organization, but here's where external consultants can help you. Here's where outside resources can help you produce that analysis if need be. But you need to have a strategy. You need to have something like this to produce analysis, because otherwise you're just looking at reports. Multivariate testing is mandatory. Multivariate testing. I could have said A/B testing. I could have said controlled experimentation. But you can probably figure out that for my acronym to be RAMP, I needed an M. So multivariate testing. If you're not doing some type of testing on your website, if you're not taking the data and the analysis and making changes to your marketing campaigns, to your site design, if you're not doing that, you are not doing web analytics. You're just generating reports. And really, ultimately, you're really wasting your time. You need to test. You need to make changes. You can test everything. You can test your landing pages. You can test creative placements, images. You can test so much with relatively simple technology. And now, thanks to Google, free technology. Google Website Optimizer costs this many euros, this many dollars. It's absolutely free to anybody to use, and it is good. Here's an example on my own website. If I had not tested this, I might have deployed combination 3. It was very pretty. I thought it looked nice. It used a lot of very clever words, and it converted at a rate 47% lower than my baseline. If I had not tested that, if I'd have just thrown it out there, I would have shot myself in the book. Shot myself in the foot. You would have not bought my books. You have to test. It's not easy to test, but it's not impossible, and it's not expensive. So why do you test? Aside from me standing up here and jumping around and confusing the poor cameraman who's trying to track me as I dodge left and right, you test because you want to be a mature organization in your use of analytics. So this is a very famous curve that I generated at Jupiter Research now that looks at how companies who are predisposed to conduct business on the internet use web analytics. Stage 0, these are companies who aren't even looking. They're not even tracking anything. They don't have Google Analytics, they don't have anything. And they need to cross an investment chasm. They need to invest their time or money or energy and get serious about web measurement. Stage 1 and 2 companies, they're getting reports. Maybe they have key performance indicators, but they're not using them. This is the majority of companies around the world are getting data that they're not using. They need to cross a staffing chasm. They need to dedicate those resources, have people to make them more successful, to use the data. But once you have people, you still have to cross the action chasm. You still have to get to the point where you're letting analytics make you smarter, better, more efficient online. And that small group of stage 4 companies, that's Amazon.com. It's eBay, it's Apple, it's parts of Microsoft, it's Dell, it's Postbank. It's companies around the world that are using web analytics and data to their strong, significant advantage. I heard an example. It was in Dutch, but Arlie translated it for me. The last time I was here in Holland, Postbank used testing to come up with an incremental €1 million. €1 million through simple testing. Imagine what you could do. Maybe you're not the same size as ING, but imagine what you could do if only you started to do analysis and test. Imagine how much more revenue you could produce. And finally, it's process. Process keeps your ramp together. Process is the glue. Because if you don't have a process, you won't know what to do with your resources and your analysis and your multivariate testing. Process-oriented approach saves time and money. You don't have to explain the same things over and over again because you'll have a process for education. It reduces dependence on individuals, which is good news because every other one of them is thinking about taking a different job for more money. Process lets you recover when people leave the organization. It provides you the ability to retrain people and recover. It reduces mistakes and errors and omissions because there is a checklist. For every campaign deployment, there is a checklist for every web page design and application design that says metrics. Do we have the tags included? Have we tested the tags? Have we validated the data collection? It doesn't get dropped out at the 11th hour anymore because it is an integral part of everything you do in the online channel. And process improves internal understanding of web analytics. I've been evangelizing for process-based analytics for just about a year now. And as I started my own company and started going into senior positions in the organization, I realized that senior executives, C-level executives, are process-driven people. They know to run a company. You can't just guess. You can't just work from your gut and be successful in most instances. So when you take a process-oriented approach and when you tell your boss, I need an extra day because this is a new process for us. We need to diagram, we need to document, we need to be careful with this. They will appreciate that. They will appreciate that because they know that the next time you'll need a half a day, and the time after that you'll need a quarter day to do the same job because you're documenting and thinking about that process. So the industry analyst, my respected peers, I'm a former analyst for Jupiter Research, recommend process. No great surprise. Megan Burns from Forrester Research said that most analysts spend the bulk of their time responding to fire drills that keep them from high-value activities like education, analysis, and experimentation. To get out of crisis mode, firms need to plan and implement systems that handle everyday data needs with minimal effort and allow them to manage new requirements and one-off data requests with consistent process. It is a consistent, process-driven approach that will deliver additional incremental value to your organization. This is Forrester Research, respected around the world. Aberdeen Group, John Lovett, who has actually recently taken my old job at Jupiter Research, says the next level in web analytics is establishing business process. So you can use web analytics to measure results, and process is the best way for companies to leverage their web analytics. When the analyst will say this, when they will stop telling you it's about technology, when they will stop telling you it's about resources, and tell you that you need to get your house in order, that you need to figure out what your processes are, it is time to listen. So I want you to ramp up. Again, if you remember nothing else, resources, analysis, multivariate testing, and process. Why do you need a ramp? At the end of the day, the highest value use of web analytics is to provide strategic guidance to your organization. It's not about which page was seen. It's not about which campaign was clicked on, which landing pages were popular. It's not about tactical uses. It is about how will we evolve our use of the internet and our business based on the internet over time. There's so much data available to you in web analytics systems, you have to have a strategic approach to doing this. It's not okay to guess. The fire drills need to stop. Consistency is critical. Big thinking, big picture thinking. That's what companies need. Where is the data? Because if you think you have problems today with web analytics, if you think web analytics is hard, like I think web analytics is hard, what do you think happens to web analytics when we all use this? When this is how people communicate with you, when they go through a mobile device, what happens then? Because theoretically, you know exactly where I am. The mobile phone providers can provide the GPS coordinates. I can go online with my iPhone, and they can say, Eric Peterson is in Rotterdam, Holland, serve him a different ad. Eric Peterson is in Rotterdam, Holland, give him different content. Based on my geographic position, this is Web 3.0. This is the future. But if you're not doing RAMP, if you're not doing process and analytics well today, this is going to kick your butts. When I thought about talking about committing to a RAMP, since RAMP was such a clever acronym, at least I think so, when I'm practicing in front of a mirror, I always giggle. I said, what visual cue could I provide? The skateboarder. This skateboarder is about 10 feet above a 12-foot ramp. 22 feet in the air. If he's not fully committed at this point, he has two alternatives. This is the first alternative. He can land on his face. He can bail out at the last minute and get hurt, get wiped out totally. But if the skateboarder is totally committed, like you should be totally committed to web analytics and using a ramp, you can land like this. All of you immediately recognize Tony Hawk. What you may not know is he's holding my wife. So I don't want you to settle for anything else. I don't want you to stop at Ra. This is Ra, the sun god, the great sun god Ra. I don't want you to stop just at resources and analysis and process. Don't stop at RAP. This is RAP. Snoop Doggy Dogg, who's probably not allowed in the Netherlands. I don't want you to stop with an AMP. You cannot stop with any of these. You have to get resources, analysis, multivariate testing, and process. And if you do that, I guarantee you will be more successful with your web analytics than you are today. Keep clicking in the wrong direction. So to reinforce this a little bit, what can a ramp do for you? Overstock.com used a ramp. They leveraged analysis and multivariate testing to improve their site design. They found that people who use site search purchased more, higher value purchasers. They used multivariate testing to find a site design that emphasized site search. They got 2% more visitors using site search on a daily basis. That gave them a 6-figure lift in weekly revenue, annualized to a 1% incremental gain in revenue. 1%. It's not very much. Unless, of course, like Overstock.com, you did $850 million in revenue that year. Then it was $8.5 million from one good decision, 1 year. Another well-known brand in a competitive market, folks who were paying $12 to $15 per click at Google, go Google stock, institutionalized the process for doing search marketing. They got their analysis down, so they recognized when something was going wrong. They started to see change in the relationship between their conversion and their click-through rate on one of the search engines. They jumped in and did the analysis. They found that roughly 15% of all clicks from one of the search engines were fraudulent. They were people who were simply clicking on the link and backing up, clicking on the link and backing up, because at $12 to $15 a click, you can make a lot of money off of fraud. Well, they did the analysis, and they took it back to the search engine. They showed it to the search engine people who had never seen analysis like that. But they could not refute the analysis. They wrote this company a check, a refund check, for $750,000. They were really proud of what they were able to do to get a refund check, right? This is about 5% of their multi-million-dollar search marketing budget. They replicated that with another search engine. The other search engine wrote them a check for $1.3 million. $2 million in refunds because they had a ramp. CompUSA used resources and analysis to do a similar type of study that Overstock did. They found that people doing product compare functionality were buying 33% more in their average ticket. So they used multivariate testing to drive more people there. What they did is increase traffic to product compare functionality by 11%, increase purchases by 16%, reduced abandonment by 56%, and got an additional incremental $2.2 million every year. A little bit of analysis, a little bit of multivariate testing, and $2.2 million, which I guess is just a little bit of money. And finally, a Fortune 500 travel company used multivariate testing and process. They had a best rate guarantee, but they didn't think people were seeing it. They were concerned that customers were either calling them, generating higher order costs, or going to their competitors. So they played around. They played around with different guarantees. They used multivariate testing to combine things with images and text in different ways. They found a treatment that showed a conversion rate that was 0.6% higher than their conversion rate. So if they were converting at 2%, suddenly they rolled this out, they were converting at 2.6%. A huge gain percentage-wise. It turned into an estimated lift in online bookings of $30 million annually, and that persists. They roll it through and they test it. They say, what if we do this a different way? And they see an immediate decrease in bookings online. $30 million because of their ramp. Yes, millions. So in closing, I want you to remember two things. Web analytics is hard. So the next time a vendor, a consultant like me, or anyone comes up to you and says, Web analytics is easy, anybody can do it, buy our software. You look them in the eye and you say, you know what? At e.day, Eric Peterson, who's written the book on web analytics, told me that web analytics is hard and you're full of crap. Explain that. Remember that web analytics is hard. Remember that you need a ramp. You need resources, analysis to do multivariate testing, and you need process. You do all four of these things, again, I promise you will be more successful than you are today. The good ramp can help any motivated company. A good ramp can drive your success, drive your financial success. I heard the rock music. That must mean I should show you this last slide. My contact information, buy my books if you enjoy the subject. Thank you very much for having me to Rotterdam.